All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving headfirst into a mystery that's really captured the imagination. The possibility of an alien portal hidden within the Grand Canyon.
Oh, yeah, we've got it all today. Stories, Google Earth sightings, a whole web of theories. It's going to be fun to untangle it all.
It really is. I mean, we think we know the Grand Canyon, right? It's this iconic landmark, but could it be hiding something truly out of this world? We'll see.
Well, to kick things off, we're taking a cue from the YouTube channel Unveiled, specifically their video, An Alien Portal in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that video really lays out all the pieces of the puzzle. It's got the popular theories, the skepticism, everything. A great starting point for sure.
And they don't waste any time getting to the juicy stuff, like this supposed alien doorway spotted on Google Earth.
Right. Back in October 2022, a user named Wayne Wells, he posted about this dark rectangular shape. It looked like it was carved right into the desert landscape.
Uh-huh. Looked pretty convincing in the images, too. But, it's funny. It didn't cause nearly the same stir as that doorway on Mars image from earlier that year.
That's true. Why do you think that is? I mean, they both kind of play on the same idea, a mysterious entrance on a seemingly barren world.
It's interesting. Mars just has that alien factor baked in, doesn't it?
Right.
Movies, books, all that sci-fi stuff. It just primes us to think of Mars as the place for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mars is the ultimate unknown frontier for us right now. But the Grand Canyon, even though it's amazing, maybe it's just a little too familiar for that kind of out there thinking.
Maybe, maybe. But speaking of out there, we have to talk about Hank Krassman. Now, his story is wild.
Oh, yeah, Hank Krassman. This guy's story is legendary in some circles.
So picture this. Early 1960s, Krassman's a student, and he claims he's led by a Hopi friend into the depths of the Grand Canyon. Blindfolded, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, already sounds pretty mysterious. What happens next?
They reach this solid rock face, like a dead end. But get this, Krassman says his hand just passes right through it.
Whoa, hold on. Like straight through the rock. Whoa.
That's what he claimed, like it was an illusion or some kind of hidden portal. And on the other side, a whole hidden city, an advanced technological metropolis just tucked away inside the canyon.
Okay, now that's the stuff of movies. But he never found this portal again.
Nope, despite tons of attempts. And no one's ever backed up his story. But here's the thing. He stuck to this story his whole life, right up until he passed away in 2010.
Wow, that's dedication to a story. It makes you wonder, even if it's not true, where did he come up with something so detailed?
Right, and there's that Hopi connection, too. They've lived in that region forever. And their stories about the canyon are full of deep spiritual stuff.
You know, I've always found it fascinating how cultures like the Hopi have this ancient knowledge of the land, these stories passed down through generations. Makes you think maybe there's something to it, something we've lost touch with in our modern world.
Yeah, maybe their stories are telling us something we just haven't learned to hear yet. And it's not just Krassman either. We can't forget about all the UFO sightings around the Grand Canyon.
Oh man, those are hard to ignore. I mean, the Grand Canyon's basically in the heart of UFO country.
Oh, for sure. Area 51, just a hop, skip, and a jump away. Then you've got California right next door to Arizona, and it's like UFO Central over there.
And let's not forget the Nevada Triangle. Isn't part of it the southeastern point thought to start in the Grand Canyon?
Some folks think so.
Yeah.
All those disappearances, unexplained events, pretty spooky stuff. It really makes you wonder, is there something about this region that attracts this kind of activity? Some weird energy, magnetic fields, who knows?
You know, I've heard theories about certain spots on Earth having these unusual electromagnetic properties. Maybe that plays into it, but let's not get too sidetracked. We have to talk about the Dulce Base, this alleged underground facility, right?
Ah, yes, Dulce Base. Now, this one takes us underground, literally. This is where the conspiracy theories get really wild. We're talking about humans and aliens working together miles below the surface.
Miles below. Seriously. That's crazy. So what, like a giant underground city or something?
That's what some believe, yeah. Multi-story, huge, the whole 9 yards. And of course, no real proof exists, but the stories, they just keep circulating.
I can imagine. What kind of stories are we talking about?
Oh, all sorts of things. Mutilated cattle, strange gases in the air, people claiming they worked there, witnessed experiments, you name it.
Sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi thriller. Okay, so let me get this straight. We've got possible alien portals, a hidden city, tons of UFO sightings, and a secret underground base, all in this one area. Arizona's a busy place, huh?
You could say that. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, you've got Sedona.
Oh, Sedona. I was just thinking about that. Famous for those red rocks, the vortexes, all that good stuff.
Right.
What's the deal with Sedona?
Sedona's where things get a little more, shall we say, spiritual. It's not just about spaceships and aliens, but about energy, different dimensions.
I've heard about those energy vortexes, like at Airport Mesa, Cathedral Rock, those places. People go there to meditate, experience these energies, right?
Exactly. It's a very different vibe than the other stuff we've been talking about. But some people, they believe those vortexes aren't just about spiritual energy. They think they could be gateways, attracting extraterrestrials, maybe even opening up to other realities.
Oh, okay, now that's a whole other level. So we're dealing with portals, UFOs, secret bases, and energy vortexes,
Right.
all in Arizona. It sounds like something out of a comic book.
You said it. But before we get too carried away, we have to acknowledge the skeptics.
Oh, for sure. Not everyone's buying into all this, right?
Of course not. There's a whole camp that says there's zero hard evidence for any of this. They'd say the doorway is just a rock formation, Craftsman made his story up, the Dulce base is a hoax, that sort of thing.
Right, right. So how do we balance those two sides? How do we approach all of this without jumping to conclusions?
That's the fun part, isn't it? We weigh the evidence, think about the context, and ultimately we each decide what we believe. But even the skeptics, they can't deny the mystery is intriguing.
Oh, absolutely. And part of what makes it so mysterious is the Grand Canyon itself. I mean, have you seen how huge it is?
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Over 1,000 major cave systems, and we've only explored a tiny fraction of them.
And then you've got those restricted areas, the no-fly zones. I know they're there for safety and preservation, but it does make you wonder, right? What are they hiding?
Fuels the imagination, for sure. It plays right into that cover-up idea, you know?
Wow.
If there's nothing to hide, why all the secrecy? It's like a giant puzzle with pieces missing. It is. And as we go deeper into these Grand Canyon mysteries, we'll try to put some of those pieces together and see what kind of picture we get.
1,000 cave systems, right? And who knows what could be in those unexplored caves? Ancient civilizations, weird geological formations, things we haven't even imagined. It's pretty wild to think about. And those restricted areas, the no-fly zones, those don't exactly help calm things down. I mean, I get it, they're for safety and all, but they also make you think, what are they so worried about us seeing?
Totally. It feeds right into the whole government cover-up narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Area 51, the Bermuda Triangle, all these places where access is limited, people automatically assume something's being hidden.
Right, it's like human nature. We always want what we can't have. But even if we forget about the conspiracies for a second, the Grand Canyon itself, I mean, it just seems like a place made for mystery, doesn't it?
It really does. It's almost like a place where nature and our imagination meet. You know, the scale of it, how old it is, all the stories people tell about it. It just adds to that feeling of wonder, like we're just scratching the surface.
You mentioned the stories people tell. Earlier, you talked about the Hopi and their connection to the canyon. Can you tell me a bit more about what they believe, how it relates to some of these mysteries?
So the Hopi's been in that region for centuries, and their culture is deeply connected to the landscape. Their stories, their beliefs, they're all tied to the Grand Canyon like it's part of their identity. And those stories, they're filled with all sorts of things.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, spirits living in the canyon walls, ancient beings with special powers, guardians of secret knowledge. They don't really see a clear line between the physical world and the spiritual world.
It sounds like their understanding of the canyon is so different from ours, so much deeper in a way. They've been observing it, living with it for generations, something we just can't replicate.
Exactly. And it makes you think, maybe they see things, understand things that we just don't. Maybe there's more to reality than we realize, something our science can't explain. And it brings us back to those portals, right?
Yeah, the portals. We talked about Craftsman's story, the vortexes in Sedona, all pointing to these gateways to other places. But what is a portal, really? Is there anything scientific about them?
I mean, portals are nothing new, right? They're in mythology, stories, all throughout history. People have always been fascinated by the idea of doorways to other worlds, other dimensions. And while it might sound like fantasy, there are some scientific theories that touch on similar ideas.
Oh, really? Like what?
Wormholes, for example, theoretical tunnels connecting different parts of space-time. Then there's the idea of parallel universes where our reality is just one of many.
Right, right. So are we saying these could be real physical portals that we could actually walk through?
Well, whether they look like doorways or not is another question. But the idea that there could be connections between different realities, well, that's not totally out there, scientifically speaking. It's still very much speculation, but it's intriguing to think about.
It is. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk more about Dulce Base. What's the story behind that whole conspiracy theory, and why do you think it's stuck around for so long?
Well, Dulce Base really took off in the 80s. Remember those cattle mutilations? Some people thought aliens were behind them. And then the idea of a secret base where humans and aliens were working together, that just sort of took hold.
And the government being so secretive about Area 51 probably didn't help, right?
Yeah,
People already had that distrust, so another top secret base, this time with aliens involved, well, it probably didn't seem that crazy.
exactly. Plus, you had these people claiming they worked at Dulce Base talking about these crazy experiments and stuff.
Right. And even if those stories didn't have any proof, they still spread, especially with the internet. They become part of this whole bigger story that's hard to separate from what's actually real. What about the people living around Dulce? Do they believe it, or did they think it's all a bunch of hooey?
Honestly, it depends who you ask. Some folks think it's ridiculous, some are open to the idea, and some are absolutely convinced it's real and dangerous.
Wow, so it really affects how they see their own home. It makes you think, how much of what we believe comes from stories, from the information we're exposed to, who we trust?
That's a big question, right? We're constantly filtering information, trying to figure out what's real. And when something challenges what we thought we knew, it can be really hard to know what to believe, especially when it comes to aliens and secret bases and all that.
Yeah, that's not your everyday stuff. It's like walking a tightrope, being skeptical but also open-minded, trying to find that balance. But even with all these amazing ideas, we also have to remember that there are often simpler explanations for what we see and hear.
Of course, that's where science comes in, right?
Hmm.
Testing those theories, looking at the evidence, and reaching conclusions based on facts.
Makes sense.
But even science has limits. There are still things we don't understand, mysteries that don't fit into our current knowledge. And maybe that's why we're so drawn to these topics, that pursuit of knowledge, that thrill of discovery.
Yeah, it's like we can't help but be fascinated by the things we don't know? It keeps us searching, keeps us pushing the boundaries.
Exactly, and there's no place that embodies that more than the Grand Canyon, right? So much of it's still unexplored, still holding on to its secrets.
Makes you want to just grab a map and a flashlight and head out there, see what you can find.
I know I do. And who knows? Maybe someone listening to this right now, maybe they'll be the one to make the next big discovery out there. Find a hidden cave, some evidence of an ancient civilization, maybe even bump into something truly mind-blowing.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? To think those answers could be out there, just waiting for someone to find them. But even if we don't all become explorers, even if we don't find those big answers, we can still explore these mysteries in our own ways, right?
Absolutely. We've got books, documentaries, podcasts like this one, and most importantly, we can keep that curiosity alive. Keep asking questions. Keep that sense of wonder.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this whole deep dive. It's not just about finding the answers, it's about the journey of exploring, the thrill of not knowing everything.
Totally. And sometimes just asking the question, that's more important than the answer itself. It makes us think differently, consider new possibilities, be more open-minded.
So, as we wrap this up, this Grand Canyon mystery deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Imagine you're standing there on the rim of the canyon. You're looking out at this massive landscape, millions of years old. What secrets do you think it holds? What stories are hidden in those rocks? What's waiting to be discovered down there?
It's exciting to think about, isn't it? Maybe the Grand Canyon is more than just this beautiful natural wonder. Maybe it's a gateway to something else, to a world of mystery we're just starting to understand.
That's an incredible thought to end on. And hey, maybe someday we'll have those answers and our whole understanding of the universe will change. But until then, keep exploring, keep that curiosity alive, and never stop wondering.